Hello guys, welcome back to Writer's Tales with the last adventures, number 37. This is the Secret People. We're on the planet Florana. If you're familiar with Florana, let me phrase that. I'll go back to some of the trivia bit, of course, like how it can be and everything else. It's your conception, everything else. So, I'll get back to that. So, on the planet Florana, excuse me, pronunciation, teeth, excuse me. This is like a resort planet, very much filled with like creamy milk seas, like golden sand and everything else, like very sort of rich and beautiful, of course. But over years, like for the past 100 years, it's been a dumping ground for various, like just basic corporations dumping stuff like waste, chemicals, all sorts really, even dead bodies actually, which is quite shocking. So the protagonists end up going on, landing on Florana on a pile of bodies, decayed bodies, where they put the ship on, and it's just, it's like a horrible. It's like they have to really just like say, whoa, where we're on some like polluted planet that's been it's riddled with dead bodies on the beach and everything else. There's chemicals, like there's a weird smell of chemicals in the air. It's like it seems very dangerous. It is, and there's weird like sea creatures, like crab creatures, like small things, just like genetically altered. They, and just like living within the bodies and in the sand and everything else. It's just pretty, again, strange stuff really. But also they see a male hatch beside the beach. Like they stumble across it. I think Toad does actually, just by accident. He's trying to flee from this crab thing. Of course, that's chasing. He finds in a sand pit or whatever, like a pile of sand, and flees and eats shit into the sand really, or the polluted area for rubbish and everything. And he finds a male hatch, and this leads to a like a transport unit of that leads to the bottom of the ocean, the Milky Ocean, which obviously one thing to mention about this ocean is it has support bubbles in, so you float. When you dive down, you actually float up again. It depends on the water what it's got contains in. So this hatch is basically just like to prevent anyone from being floated up to the surface if they need to go down, whatever. In this case, really. So they end up going on this transport thing and heading to this like base. Well, we can't really see the base really, but you just see tunnel. You just go for tunnels, it's like a subway tunnel, very much like that, and it leads to this refugee base in the sea, and in it we have like various reptile humanoids, including Silurians, sea devils, just many others to think of, and also a race called the Zarinos. The Zarinos, sort of like a more intelligent race, really, in a way. So you have various reptile humanoids from different parts, from Earth and just various different planets, really. Living in this, in this bunker type refugee base, really, closed off from the world, really, just only from the sea, just the Milky Sea to look at. And that is just like, it's like you look into nothingness, really. It's just white, like a creamy, like silk white. And that's all you see in that throughout. So these lot are from, again, from different planets that have been destroyed by a group called the Invaders. Now, the Invaders were referenced back in Blacklight. They were back in the second story. Because Nimtef's planet, the whole world got destroyed. It got attacked, and that is one of the main involvements. Of course, the Invaders. They're just called the Invaders. We don't know who they really are yet. Really, that's a long thing. There's the stories like, again, same with Urban Prey as well. The humanoids, they sort of fled from their planet, because again the Invaders come over and destroyed what they got, and the same here happens on here as well. So they're all just like surviving, of course, living it's like a slum bit really, filled with sleeping bags and fold out beds and stuff. It's quite closed off the world, have a little TV screen in the corner. You know, you have like a surveillance system out in the open just to see if there's any calls coming in, anyone trying to land or anything like that. You know, is there any crash ships or something that end up being end up in the ocean? That sort of thing. So that's that's happening. But there's a couple of traders in the midst. There is the Zarinos have actually been working with the so-called invaders. Actually, you know, they're like an agent, really. They're trying to calm down, like, you know, they're like a scapegoat, really. That's often like, or maybe like a mole, very much. You know, just looking into where they are actually. You know, where these reptile humanoids are. Where do these people actually? Their planets are destroyed, but where's some of the people? Like most of the people, a lot of the population is gone, but a small fraction, a tiny fraction, have disappeared. You know, they've fled. Now it's time to find out where they are. And this is where they sort of step in, and they end up killing most of them actually. You know, most of the reptilian humanoids from various, you know, it's like different type of species. You know, just are getting killed. The last of their kind being shot dead. You know, doing all sorts of stuff really. Just like, you know, just because they're working for invaders doesn't mean they could probably get them out of here alive, really, to be honest. And the protagonists team up with a Solarian Sea Devil, of course, because most of their sort of pack have basically got killed, really. You know, I think they're sort of the first ones to go. Then afterwards, the other reptilian humanoids sort of come next, really. So we end up them, of course. There's some weird jokey moments as well, involving trying to sneak around them. Involving, you know, like if you hold to a corner at different sides of the corner, of course, and you do like that weird sign, you know, like hand signals and stuff. It turns into like a very funny scene, you know, with the character. You know, I think it's with Toad and also the Solarian as well, trying to really, you know, try and move him forward or try and sneak up. And the Solarian doesn't really understand the signals what Toad's doing because he's really doing some weird flapping jazz hand type stuff as well. Like he's really, you know, he's not making quite sense like everyone else does. Like again, Toad is sort of vain and also very clueless as well. So his cluelessness sort of comes into play in this bit, in this sort of story really, especially with the Solarian, of course. But you know, obviously you've also got the revelation that the invaders are somewhat above the planet. Actually, you know, above Florida, searching for you know what refugees are just to kill them. Really, in the end though, the Zarinos get killed because the invaders implanted a bomb in their sort of organs. Really, you know, and if they don't carry the mission, of course, they end up being destroyed. But in doing partly in doing so because the protagonists sort of, you know, negotiate and talk them down. Really, half of them agree, half of them don't. Half of them like to go guns blazing. Half of them sort of like have a different change of mind, really. But the ones who are sort of trigger happy, gun heavy, who just want to carry out the mission, of course, they get killed, really. You know, and because most of the humanoids, the reptilian humanoids, rebel against them, of course, and basically just end up in like a bit of a squabble, really. Whereas the ones who have a second chance, of course, who have been negotiating and think, you know, you're quite right about this, they end up being exploded because they have bombs in them anyway, you know. So they basically kill themselves without doing the mission, of course. Like it's, again, suicide mission for them, really. And yeah, that's really the secret people, really. So this story, of course, it's on Florana. I want to send us on a story on that planet, actually, because there's never been much of it, actually. Because it was referenced in Death to the Daleks back in John Pertwee's era. But the only thing I can find out else was a comic strip magazine with the 11th Doctor, which is, again, not really the best ones, really. Not a very good indication, very sort of childlike and stuff, like, not really the best. But I really want to say a story on that and actually read about what it contains. I think there was a reference when I searched on the Wikia page, the TARDIS Wikia page, that it was sort of, again, heavily polluted and everything else. You know, well, I can go with that actually and make it a bit more like a wasteland, like a very sort of like, you know, nothingness really. You know, because like it's past its prime, corporations and everything else, and they basically dumped everything in there really. So there you go. The whole idea with the Zarinos and the Invaders, that's sort of like come out of Return of the Living Dad, the Virgin New Adventure from Kate Allman. in 1996. It's when a Navarino named Albanix is actually sort of like similar thing, like scapegoat for the Daleks. Actually, like there's like an incoming Dalek ship like there really, because it's, well, in terms like he's just basically he's working for them, you know, trying to find out where these refugees are actually. You know, they're living in like Little Chaffont, really, in Norfolk in the early 80s, really, disguised as humans, run a coffee shop and library, really, and yeah, that's where it actually comes from, really. That's all bit, and also its working title was called Mysteries and Marvels of the Ocean, by changing to the Secret People. For again, that's based on painting as well, both based on paintings, but looking for short titles, really. So there we go. So the Secret People. Thank you guys for watching. As always, see you for the next video, and goodbye.